Let's make another mini wall hang to add to my Halloween mini wall quilt collection. Now, I was staring at my Halloween wall and thought I should probably add one more this year, and I felt like I was missing a crow. So I broke out my scrappy bin and selected some fabrics for this project here today. Now, first up, you're going to need a fat eighth of fabric for the binding, about a 6-inch square for the crow, plus 6-inch square of heat and bond that will be for the crow as well. Now mine is slightly larger since I wanted to try and incorporate the gold moon within the crow if possible, but we'll see towards the end how that goes. Now you are going to also need a 8.5-inch square for the background of the mini quilt and a larger piece for the backing. So go ahead and print out the free PDF template, which I will have a link for down below in the description. It will be the PDF template only, but feel free to make more blocks or add a crow here and there to your quilts later on. But do make sure you are printing it at 100%. Do not scale to print, and then you can go ahead and use that 1-inch register mark to make sure you've printed it out correctly. But what you're going to do first is cut your crow out with some paper scissors. Do take your time. This crow isn't perfect looking, which is why I love it. Since it is such a small scale, it can be difficult to cut out. Now, since I want to try and keep his toes, I'm actually going to come back with some smaller scissors and snip in between those little toesies. Now, you can just round off the foot like the other leg if you want to make it a lot easier on yourself, but hey, I'm going to give it a try and kind of cut in between those little toesies. Then once you have your crow template cut out, go ahead and take the 6-inch square of fabric and iron the wrong side of it to your heat and bond. Once you have your heat and bond attached, since I want to try and show the gold moons on my fabric to make it a little artsier, I'm actually going to trace the crow on the front of the fabric instead the back. If you are using whatever scrappy print and don't mind where you want the crow to be cut out from, you can go ahead and trace the crow out on the heat and bond side just to make it a lot easier. But what I'm going to do is try and line up this template as best as possible to make it look like that gold moon is the crow's eye, or at least position it where the eye would be, roughly. Now, if this wasn't black fabric, you can then use whatever fabric marking tool you have on hand, but since my fabric is black, I'm actually going to use a white tailor's chalk to outline my crow, which will actually show up pretty easily. So what I'm going to do is take my time and trace everything out one last time. And once it's all traced out, I'm going to take fabric scissors and cut the crow out one more time. Now at this time, do your very best since the edges of the crow will actually become the final end product. Now, if you use tailor's chalk as well, what I'm actually going to do is spray some water on a scrap piece of fabric and wipe off that excess chalk line from when I cut out the crow just to kind of clean up those edges. But once your crow is all cut out, go ahead and take your background 8.5-inch square and peel the heat and bond paper off the back of your crow. Go ahead and center your crow as best as possible in the middle, and if you measure 1.5 inches away from all edges, it will actually center your crow directly in the middle. Otherwise, you can just eyeball it if you prefer, but go ahead and iron it down to hold everything in place. Now, last but not least, which can be optional, you can go ahead at this time and stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the crow to secure everything down. Or you can do it all at the same time while you are quilting it, which is the option I'm going to go for. Now I'm going to use the paper template of the crow to show you my idea of how I am planning to quilt this mini quilt out. Because it is so small and it is a crow, what I'm going to do is add a curved line like so at the bottom of the bird to kind of form like its belly underside area. Then I'm going to try and give it some feathers, or at least mimic some feathers with the quilting. Then I'll also round off this section of the beak area. And last but not least, if you want, you can give it an eye. But since my gold moon will be its eye, I'm just going to leave that part out. But this is roughly what I'm going to try and do. So let's go ahead and make a quilt sandwich by adding your backing fabric wrong side facing up, followed by a scrap piece of batting and your mini quilt on top. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take it to my sewing machine and go ahead and quilt it all out. And here is the quilting. I used glide thread in black on the front of the raven to blend it in as best as possible. Now you can barely see it on camera, but with the batting, it is giving it some dimension, which is the look that I was trying to achieve. Now, as for the backing, I went ahead and used glide thread in mocha in my bobbin area, which actually blended in really nicely with this Tim Holtz fabric. Now, all I have to do is trim off the excess fabric and batting, and then I'm going to bind it all up. And here is the finished mini crow quilt to add to my collection. Once again, links for it will be down below in the description as the free PDF template. Feel free to use the crow on your personal quilt tops if you like. Otherwise, please hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified for your next amazing quilt project.